as I said, is a World Book Day, and we were told that a reader lives 1,000 lives, 1,000 lives before he dies. A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. And that takes us to the topic of the day, how to arrest declining reading culture. With me today, I have eminently qualified PR practitioners in my midst. And I start with Dr.Mrs. Linda Onwuka. Madam, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Dr.Mrs. Linda Onwuka is also a school administrator, a proprietress of a boarding school. And you're welcome, madam.
Thank you.
I also have the privilege of also hosting my friend, my partner, Mr. Dari Folarin. Mr. Dari Folarin is currently the PRO, Association of National Authors. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having all of you. And well, when you look at the theme of the World Book Day, you said, read your way. What does that mean, madam?
Simply means you give the child the opportunity to read any book, whatever he wants to read. That's give kind of freedom. Pick a book of your choice to read. Pick the theme of your choice. Some children like adventure, some like fantasy. Maybe from 15, 18, they could like romance. Some like sports, some like history, some biography and autobiography. Whatever their choice is, whatever you think that they want to read, allow them to make a choice. But for the younger ones, there should be a control, which means if they go into a library or you take them into a bookshop, you should be able to read to know whether it's age appropriate or not.
When we say read your way, does that prevail in Africa?
Yeah, well, you can, you will not allow them unrestricted access to anything, because with the quantum of toxic materials available there, you need to guide and nurture the young ones, so that you don't expose them unduly to things that are bad. These days we have blogs that where you can learn a lot of bad things, pick up a lot of vices. So there's need for control. But like Madam explained, read your way is is a democracy. You are free to choose whatever catches your fancy. The aim is to allow pleasurable reading. Most times you read to pass exams. So you need to allow these children to pick and read anything that interests them. I remember in our days, we used to enjoy reading James and the Chase.
Sure.
And the Carter and all the rest. So that's the freedom, and we need to read. Be an omnivorous reader. Read.
Well, probably it's not the fault of our children that they are not having free choices. So how do we encourage parents to let them imbibe that culture of getting to be reading in their own way?
Well, the question is, are we, their parents, reading? If we are not reading.
Maybe I should answer that. Well,
because if we are not reading, we can't encourage anybody to read. And if we don't know the benefits or the advantages of reading, we are not likely to teach our children to read. So we'll start with the parents. Let them be conscious of the fact that reading has numerous advantages. So if they read, or when they read, they can encourage our children to read.
Well, this reading we are talking about, are we just talking about the stereotype book reading, or which other ways?
I think that's the first thing to do, because I mean, if you talk of other kinds of reading, how do you even open up your mind to assimilate other things when you have not read? So the major thing is reading. That's reading as written texts. That's the major thing. The other things can come in as additives, but the major thing is, because if you don't read, For instance, I don't know, how do you interpret even what you have seen? How do you relate what you have seen if you are not reading, if you are not aware of what is of your environment? Interpreting becomes difficult. So I think that reading text is the main thing, and I think that's what those who declared the World Book Day have in mind, UNESCO, to encourage young ones to read.
What about the disadvantaged children?
Well, you know, there's Braille. They have been catered for. You know, there have been advancements. You know, so we have Braille. We have auditory help assistance for those who are impaired. So the disadvantage are
talking about special
yes, children. Yes.
But there are some children that are disadvantaged.
Yeah, yeah.
The environment is not conducive. That their parents are poor.
Yeah, you know, reading, you know, is a leveler. You know, reading is a way of exercising the mind. You know, even when our parents were poor, you remember that people used to read with lantern. People used to read with candle. People go to streets, to go and stay on the street to read. You know, on the radio program this morning, Taiwo Obe was explaining that he used to go to bookshops to go and be reading, and he was reading a book for 2 weeks. He would be going there to read for 1 hour. So even the young ones, you know, people are, you know, people who do not have money, indigent ones, you know, they find a way around the Odu because readers are leaders. So you just need to read. There is that desire to read and to read all sorts of things so as to learn.
Well, I was just looking at the scenario where I know reading comes from those set pieces, those books that have been arranged. What are the other ways, other forms of reading, or other forms of getting some learning things?
Well, except we are talking about arts, for instance.
Okay.
Right.
But then it also comes back to reading. You know, I talked about appreciation. You see I can see maybe in this studio, I see that tree, I see the palm tree. I have to know that it's a palm tree. And that is perhaps the river. I'm interpreting this drawing. If I haven't seen this, if I haven't read about it, I'm just going to look at it as just an ordinary
What
picture.
about folklores?
Oh, they are very useful. In fact,
Those are the traditional ways.
Yes. You know, the same thing, folklores and storytelling are same. But they are very useful because, you know, we emphasize even storytelling.
Right.
Because of the morals that they impact. And even folklores, it's unfortunate that that is also disappearing now. And, you know, I know that we have a lot of foreign rhymes because we advocate that you teach children rhymes so that you can create awareness. You can help them improve their phonological awareness and maybe comprehension. So we teach them rhymes. It also improves their memory because they are reciting the rhymes, and you know, it kind of enhances or opens up their horizon. So we encourage that in schools you teach rhymes. You read aloud to children so they see how you read, how you pronounce words. You pick up difficult words and you go through them. So it helps with comprehension. Now folklore, I'm not Yoruba. I've not had the opportunity of
But in the East?
I'm coming. I've not had the opportunity of visiting their schools, so I wouldn't know what is happening. But I grew up with a lot of folklores. Even in school, we had it as it was part of it's a timetable. It's something. It was on the timetable where they told us stories in my indigenous language. In fact, we didn't have the opportunity of being taught London Bridge is falling down. No. When it was time for storytelling, they told us stories, tortoises and other animals, birds in my language. So you can't discountenance that. They are very, very important. And if nothing, most of them will even tell you about your roots. So we are not from America, we are not Americans, we are Nigerians, and I'm Igbo, for instance, so I should know a bit of what happens in my culture.
And I want to also challenge mothers, you know, women generally, you know, because they should read to these young ones. Don't underrate them. Don't think that they don't understand what you are saying. read to them. You know, when they want to go to bed, when you talk them in, read to them. Sit down and read to them. Tell them stories. You know, then the culture of the panegyrics, the oriki. You know, when they greet you in the morning, you greet them, and let's go back to this old way, you know, good way of doing it, so that they will know their culture, they will know their background, they know their roots, and then they will be so proud of it. And then they will also learn morals there. You know, you tell them that, you are from this royal family, or you are from this family. Here in our family, we don't steal. In our family, we don't lie. You know, you can tell them, and Okudero does not lie. So they know, they grow up, and they go with pride to know that they cannot tell lies. They are to, you know, be a standard bearer. You know.
I want to ask you, this the World Book Day is a universal celebration.
Yes.
And is it cultural with us in Africa? What I meant by that is that we were just talking about the oriki, panegyrics, and the like. And in those days, our people were never known to be having anything written.
Yeah, in those days, because of the level of literacy, it was oral, you know, and that's how we have been passing down our culture, our values.
I was going to ask the Western education cultural.
So, I mean, everything, it starts, you know, orally, you know, word of mouth. But with the advancement in technology, we know when we had printing, you know, earlier on in the day, I was explaining to the young ones how printing started in Germany with Gutenberg, and now it started when Caxton took it to UK, and now it started in Nigeria, in Calabar with Reverend Hope Walden. So that is also printing brought in the book, and that. But before that, we had oral literature, and that's how this information, this cultural thing, has been passed down the ages. The tradition. So we need to sustain it.
We even lost a lot because of the orality of literature, and even practices. There were things like all these medical. I know somebody who has this very efficacious medicine for ear pain, but never passed it down to anybody. He died with it.
Oh, that's
in sustaining this culture, we seem to lend more or tilt more to the young ones than to the adult. Is reading culture pertaining to, does it pertain to youth?
Well, it's the goddamn young syndrome. You know, if you like, you know, it's a given that if you want something to be sustainable, you need to catch the goddamn young. You know, let the youths be there. Even in churches or anything that the youth are not involved in, you know, we soon die off, you know, because of the terminal age of the elders. You know, it's said that the old ones shall die and the young ones shall grow.
And if we've missed it with the old ones, also not miss it with the younger ones.
Well, my question was just trying to say that at the adult level, should we not also be interested in, particularly these women that are old, maybe illiterate and the like, shouldn't we engender a kind of...
Yeah, we have the adult literacy class, and that's why they are going to learn alphabet and numbers and everything. The University of Ibadan is doing a lot in that regard. And you'll be surprised if you go to our market. So most of those women are literate. They know how to read and write. So they are picking it up.
They can calculate their money. They give you a change when you have.
I tell you about my grandmother. My grandmother who never went to school, but my grandmother was very, very intelligent, and she told me tales too.
Yeah, those people are that. Same with my great grandmother, paternal grandmother. In fact, she was so fashionable, can tell you stories, can give you some guidance, and you wonder where she got that wisdom from. Well, the reading culture we are talking about, does it affect the rate of literacy in Nigeria? Yeah,
it does, you know, because there is this saying that if you want to hide something for a Nigerian, hide it in a book, they will not read it, you know. And, you know, so many things are passing us by. You know, when you're not reading the right thing, it's not that people are not reading, but reading the right things, you know. If you see people, they hold their smartphone, they are there, glued to it. In fact, these days, families, you know, husband will be using it, wife will be using it, the children will be on, they are busy on their own. But what are they reading? The stuff that they are reading is not, sometimes they are not ennobling. So we need to read good quality stuff. You know, we need to read to educate and enlighten our mind. We need to read about development. We need to read how to develop our society. We need to read how to tease out solutions to some of the problems we are facing. You know, we have the sun here, we have solar energy, and we are still suffering from power outages. So we need to read, we need to challenge ourselves. How can we harness this energy that God has given us to solve some of the problems we have? You know, if we solve half of our power problem, half of our problems will be solved. Sure. So we need to challenge ourselves, and reading is the way to challenge ourselves, to ask the hard questions.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, this the World Book Day, how is it helping research?
Research in, you know, when you say research,
in all standards.
That's a very broad.
Yeah, in all standards.
Oh,
in all standards.
but can you do research without reading? I think,
right.
I mean, if you are going to research to find a solution, research works are meant to solve problems. So you take, for instance, let me use an experiment in animal science, for instance. Okay. So my husband is an animal scientist. Okay. You want to check to see what you're feeding rabbits, for instance, or goats. You want to know the nutrients contained in whatever you're feeding them, their response to whatever you're feeding. How do you record your values? How do you arrive at your conclusion? How do you drop your hypothesis if you are not reading? And of course, remember that there will be literature review, what people have done before. So you must read. So whether we are researching in the scientific way, or like in humanities, like some of us have researched in humanities, or social sciences, you are reading. You must read before you can arrive at any conclusion.
To help discoveries.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Dr. Folarin, you often find people eager to read, but don't have places to go to. What's your advice?
Oh, we have a lot of places to read. You know, you can read under the mango tree. You can read under the corners.
Not
you can read not necessarily at libraries.
No,
we have the libraries
everywhere.
too. The libraries are there, but you can read anywhere. You just sit down and read. And then beyond reading, you should also write. You know, we in ANA are encouraging people to write. You know, there are some writers that are not with us. You know, we want to encourage writers to come and join us in ANA so that we can collectively tackle some of the societal problems that we're having. Our meeting comes up on Saturday, this Saturday at Simanadibo Library at 12 noon. So we encourage all writers who are not yet members of ANA to come up so that once they come to the meeting, we learn, we write, we read, and we share experiences. You know, it is through this that we can collectively solve some of our problems.
Madam, are schools developing their libraries to engender wide reading in schools?
You'll be surprised at what people are doing now. I belong to a number of groups, and most of them are selling books, all these foreign books. And you marvel, you know, the prices are not that exorbitant because they buy in bulk, and I think they are used, it's not a question of thinking now, they are used books. So you can have like a dozen, 2 dozens for just, you know, next to nothing. But you must have the willingness to invest in these books. So most schools know, they understand the benefits of reading, and they are encouraging their children to read.
There's this fear that young children of nowadays are exposed to some funny books that are detrimental to their learning and their sociological makeup. What do you think should be done to curb this kind of practices? We are looking for authors, and the authors that are coming up with stories, books that are teaching them to be wayward. So what do we do to curb this?
Yeah, we've been speaking about control. You know, that was why I said earlier on that read your way, yes, but we can't just allow them to read. You give them unfettered access to read just anything. We need to guide the young ones into what to read. You know, these days, sex is available everywhere. So if you are not careful, you know, people will be taught a lot of things, and then this can lead to immorality. So this is why we need to control. As in ANA, there's control. You know, we look at books that are being read, and there's control. And we thank government too for partnering with ANA in picking the reading text for the schools. So there's control, you know, there. So
and of
we
course,
need to
if
check.
your child is reading any book, you should have read it yourself. If you are not reading the full book, you look at the blog to give you an idea of what the book is talking about. So they read your way, but there should be control.
Yeah, in having an effective control, where should it be? At school, in the house, or in the society?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yes. School,
Then the
home,
control
society.
mechanism we are talking about, how do we sustain it?
Well, the first thing is to know that there should be control. I have said if you want your child, if you pick a book for your child, for instance, you should read it first. And know whether you want your child to read it. You look at the content to tell you whether that's the kind of stuff you want your child to read. That's a level of control.
Well, we will continue with this discussion next week. We would like to explore the issue of readings and ICT, the internet and the like. Viewers, this is the way we're going to stop for today. It's been a great time having Dr.Mrs. Linda Onwuka with us. Ms. Linda Onwuka she is a school administrator, a PR expert, not yet tired, still professing public relations. And I also have Dr. Folarin. I want to thank you for being with us. Dr. Folarin, currently PRO, Public Relations Officer for Association of National Authors. He's also the editor of Pr-Primus magazine. And he's a man of so many words.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being with us this week. And I hope you're going to join us next week to complete this topic. Until next week, I'm Akin Okudero, your anchor. Join us to make and shape this world. Let your children know that reading is important. One book, one pen, one child, and one teacher can change the world, says Malaya Yousafzai. Thank you for being with us. See you next week.